on a little bit. It's Sunday, so kind of want to talk a little bit about what's just a little bit, just like I'm gonna do like touch and go stuff. I'm not really wanting to like teach per se, or like say this is how it is, right? I don't want to be that way. What I want to be is like the sun, where the sun just sort of it just gives, it does what it's going to do. It shares itself with everything around it, and then those things around it store or collect that energy, and then they grow because of it, right? And me being a Leo makes a lot of sense because sometimes when you try to teach people, some people are receptive, some people is not, and then also from within yourself when you're teaching, there's a whole intent part of you. You're trying to like, there's a part of you feeling that the other side should receive and understand this information. But when you realize you're just sharing, it doesn't matter if the other side doesn't really understand it right now. The more exposure you have to something, the more that you will understand it later on. And I heard that from a person that I follow for certain things that I do in life, right? And that made a lot of sense. The repetition is how we learn, right? You have to learn that. That is probably like the key core thing in anything and everything you will do in life is the whole idea or concept behind repetition, understanding that you may do something and it may seem like it was a failure, but it wasn't really a failure. It was more of you being exposed to something. Because you were exposed to it, you became that much more closer to understanding it. And understanding something allows you to accomplish, right? And those key little small core principles, they are like, once again, they're the core of a lot of understanding, period, but more so of this particular type of understanding because it's so this path work that we do, the work that we do, and we work with whether you want to call it God, the goddess, whether you want to call it life, whether you want to call it universe, whether you want to call it environment, right? Um, Understanding and working with that particular energy is very elusive. It's not tangible at times. It doesn't start tangible, right? Once it manifests, it becomes tangible. But in the beginning, it's not tangible, and that's a lot of the energy that we work with is the intangible at first, right? And that intangible energy, which I find has always been there with us throughout our times as well, modern humans, right? Modern humans, right? Back a couple thousand years ago with the naming of the god or the term Amen, right? And Amen, as some will say, the Christians will say Amen at the end of a prayer. Um, they're using it as just like sort of a salutation, like a goodbye, but it was the kemetic Egyptian god Amen who was the hidden one, right? But not hiding like Loki, like mischievous in hiding, more so born beyond the veil, born. And born is a bad term, right, for something that has always existed. But from our minds, in order to understand this concept in the beginning, right, seedling information, this term for Amen was born, and exists on the other side of the physical veil. So we don't get to see it, right? But it exists nonetheless, right? And a lot of this work that we do, a lot of this esoteric work deals with that unseen energy, right? And it can be whatever you call it, because I've come to the conclusion after dealing and talking with people that everybody has a different term for what they want to call this energy we work with, right? Like I have a mouse right here, right? It's a mouse, it's a wireless mouse, right? I call it Logitech wireless mouse, but somebody else might say it's the Logi because they switched the name over to Logi or Logi, right? Probably Logi. Some people say it's the Logi. It's still the Logitech, but they're calling it the Logi. Some people may just call it like they don't know what the name of it is. They don't know the brand. They'll just call it a mouse. It's a mouse. Some people might even get descriptive of it and say it's the red mouse or it's Ray's red mouse, right? And all these terms are what we apply to something in order to understand it. And some of us understand at different levels. Some of us understand on base seedling levels. Some people understand on more technical levels. Some people understand more on emotional levels, right? And so classification and labeling is where a lot of good things can start when you label and classify, like to know. Those are apples. Those are bananas. Those are kumquats. And then that's a turkey. That's a bull. That's a cow. Right? Those labels or classifications are great. But when you start adding extra stuff onto it and different connotation implementations or implications, like those are um, those are bad red apples, right? Because they're like just regular apples, right? I don't particularly like regular apples. I like I think they're called, I can't remember the name. They're not the Washington apples, but they're it had some, I think they were ambrosia apples, I think is what they were called. And I can't remember. I'll have to let you guys know. But there's a particular type of apple I like, and then it's not because of the name, but it's because they taste better, right? They just they taste better, and they just happen to have a name, which I'm just like that's fitting and descriptive because of it. But when you start labeling things because you're trying to now divide it or separate it from its wholeness, then labeling classifications can become a bad thing. And this is something that I've always known internally, but I started reading. Um, I started reading the Metunetter. Started reading this, and he goes into it a little. He goes into it quite a bit more about the classifications and labelings, and what we do when we label and classify. It's either for a positive reason or we do it for negative reasons. This is where a lot of conflict and confusion comes in. So books, you guys, resources, external. I don't want to say confirmation, but external information is always great. Simply because you get to confirm or denounce what you were originally thinking. Right? External information can come in, and it may make you question what it is that you were actually thinking, learning. It may be an answer to something that you were wondering if it was right or pertinent or not. Right? Or external information can add to what you already know, um, which can be a great thing because we learn the information that we learn in pieces, um, and more information adds to those pieces, so that the core understanding or idea or thought that we have about something expands and grows and becomes more clear, more concrete, and more definite, right? And I know a lot of this probably sounds like I'm speaking in tongues. And I can tell you guys, I've been told this my whole life that I speak in riddles. Even before I was doing this type of sort of path work. When I was younger, when I would talk to people, I wouldn't talk like most people. I wouldn't talk directly. It's like sometimes I remember I had a girlfriend who used to hate that I would say like um, like them or they or those people, or I would speak indirectly about something, right? And it used to annoy her because she would think that I was either talking about her, or she would think that I'm lumping her up with a group of other people, which she didn't approve of. So once again, labels and classifications, right? Um, these things can create harmony. They can also create disharmony, right? So those are some of the most recent concepts that I've been learning. You guys have been following me for any long period of time, for any period of time, whether it been here recently, the last few years. I was really active the last few years with videos and information that I was sharing, and it was because I had this floodgate that was happening to me. I was learning, meditating, and receiving a bunch of information, and I was jotting it down because one of the first things that I was told to do when I got started working with this esoteric sort of work is to have a diary, have a journal, write down your experiences, also write down your experiments, right? Take a note of it because your mind will remember things, right? Important things, but it may not remember like when you had a thought about something or had a dream about something. Like it may not remember that 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, a year down the road. So having in a dream journal allows you to reflect on your experiences when it comes down to the work that you're working on. So I highly recommend a a journal, right? Just a journal, but also a dream journal. Um, Also a I don't know. It depends on how far you are in your path work. Start jotting down if you're wanting to create, like not really create, but sometimes we get information that is linked to the work we're working on, but there may be a parallel something that is not directly a part of what it is you're working on, but it may be um, like complementary, right? And so you want to write down those ideas because they may be things that help you down the road. They may be things that share with other people and it helps them down the road, right? And knowledge and wisdom, I mean, it comes in our head, right? But unless we write it down, it's going to come and it's going to go. It's more difficult to build upon something. Don't have the minute details written down so that you can reflect back upon and build upon, right? So, once again, this is RaEa, aka well RaEason, aka RaEa, but my spiritual esoteric name. I've been thinking about this for a while. Been It's been a hard thing trying to find or come up with a spiritual name because it's recommended. At least this is what I was told when I first got started. Um, a while ago, 25 years ago or so. Certain things I was told, but having a name allows you to break away. In a nutshell, allows you to break away from your physical mundane self, the part of you that deals with the the, the tangible earthly part of life and people and all that stuff, right? A spiritual name or an esoteric name allows you to separate yourself from that being or that person that deals with um, the everyday aspect of life, which we're trying to get away from, right? We're trying to be above it. So you separate yourself and you become, you are the spiritual person, the esoteric person. And the name helps you sort of stay in that role or stay in that persona, in that identity. And it's a great thing. It's kind of like when you go to do any type of esoteric work or any type of spiritual work, you should always take a bath, take a shower, right? Cleanse yourself, right? It leaves the skin feeling refreshed. You feel refreshed. The things that collect on you throughout the day, it builds up, and I think it there's multiple reasons why it helps. One of them is just because it's the whole idea behind cleansing yourself, right? Also, there's water attached to it, and I sternly believe that water has an energy about it. It definitely does. When it moves, it creates an energy. When it I've even heard that water itself has memory in it, has the characteristics of holding um, memories. Um, so it would explain why water has always been a part of the esoteric or the spiritual communities. Um, it does have these properties. And I'm sorry, guys, if I'm looking down here, I'm talking to looking at the Instagram people instead of looking up at the camera. I do apologize. I'm still trying to figure out this how I'm going to stream. So, but yeah, water is very has a lot of interesting properties, but it's a part of a spiritual uh, practice. That'd be a good term. Yeah, spiritual practice, right? So I lost track. Sorry, it was a lot. But yeah, but I'm trying to get back into doing this a little bit more and talking about things that we all can benefit from. I know the world's a crazy place right now. Lots of stuff has been going on. Lots of stuff is going on. So I have been wanting to get back into things. Um, I've been wanting to reconnect, but like I said, I had things that I was working on in my personal life, and I knew I couldn't totally dedicate myself to this the way that I want to if those things were not in place. And now they are a bit more in place. Things make more sense now. And so here we are. This is me beginning, and it's not. It is coincidental, but it's not coincidental simply because why I'm doing this today. We've just entered Libra. Libra started on 23, September 23rd, and we're a few days into Libra. And Libra has a lot of different connotations. For me, whenever I first think about it, I learned initially through I learned a lot of this through my interest into the Greeks and just classical mythology when I was younger, right? So, mm, and I think that gives me a basis for talking to people when I do talk about the older stuff that's not talked about as much or doesn't have the labeling as much as common. Um, but I learned a lot of this when so my concept started when I was younger, right? And so Libra to me represents it's a time of, well, since it's ruled by Venus, right, which is in the Greek pantheon, it's the goddess of love and beauty. There's other things attached to it, but I don't choose to get into the more modern, mystical, material aspects of what the Greeks did. I just don't choose to get into it. I have my opinions about the Greeks and the Romans, but that's not what this is about. This is not what this is about. Um, so Venus was love and beauty, right? And also, if you want to break it down a little bit more, relationships, friendships, and also community. You may not think that community falls under the jurisdiction, if you will, of Venus, but it does because community is all about love. It really is. Outside of love, you have love for yourself, you have love for another, right? Your significant other. You also have a love for your children. You have a love for your parents. You have a different love for people in your life, right? And so that love, when it spreads out and it makes its way into your friends, and then it makes its way into your idea of things. It could be your community, not community. It could be I don't know the shops or the stores in your area. It could be your neighbor. You could have a love for your neighbors, um, and then all these people are encapsulated into this thing called community, and that is what I believe Libra is about. Is love of self, because you have to have love inside of here in order to truly be happy and balanced and deal with the world in a peaceful and a balanced way. If you're not right inside of here, it's going to mess with this up here, and then when you interact with other people, it's going to affect your heart is going to affect your mind, and your mind is going to affect your interactions with other people. And that's why I believe the scale that there has to be balance there, right? So that's kind of why Libra represents the scales, right? Um, you've got the scales of justice, and the scales also are representative of, if you want to attach it to the ancient kemetic Egyptian goddess Ma'at, um, or Mat, as most people would say. It's kind of the whole I, ideology behind, is it you pronounce it manga or manga when you're talking about like anime? Some people feel like it's manga because it is. It's not manga. Manga is a very uh, Western way of saying it, but it's manga, right? So it's Ma'at or Mat if you wanted to refer to it Ma'at. It's actually M-A''AT, or Ma'ut. I think it might be Ma'ut. I'll have to double check. Um, but she holds the scales, right? And it's not a coincidence that her holding the scales and Venus and Libra being the scales itself. That's not a coincidence. This particular time frame that we go into, the weather starts to change, which represents wind, represents air. The scales represent wind and air. And Ma'ut, I'll have to look it up. Ma'ut uh, has the feather and the heart on the scales, right? And the heart represents the heart here. and the feather represents the mind. So once again, there's a secret there. There's a secret message there that you have to be able to balance your heart with your mind, right? If not, there's all types of problems that within yourself, how you think, how you interact with other people, and then it becomes a cyclical thing, right? Things can just spiral out of hand when you're not happy or content in your heart or in your mind, right? I think it's a big problem in our, I would say, in our communities. I'm going to start there instead of saying in our world because it sounds too grand. But in our communities, and also yeah, in our country, I think a lot of people are just not placed in the heart and balanced with the mind, and that's where we have a lot of these problems coming from. Person may lean more so towards their heart and say, "Okay, I got to do what my heart dictates." It's like, yeah, no, no. You kind of do, but any person that's been through any ordeal in life, had a broken heart, had someone pass in their life, realizes you can't just continue to mourn over that person, right? Because even though your heart wants to, even though the heart says yes, mourn, we lost, right? We lost something. We should be able to mourn and feel this way. You don't want to feel that way forever, right? And that's your head coming in, your thoughts, right? Coming in and saying, okay, we don't want to feel this way anymore. It's affecting the rest of us, yo. Your heart being like hurting is messing with me. Eventually, it's gonna mess with your organs and your nervous system, right? So we need to get this in check. We need to resolve the issue here, right? So your head has a big part to do with it. So that kind of confirms that there are some people out there who just want to do what their heart dictates, and that's in my opinion, it's immature. You may have your reasons why you say it's not immature because you've given it validation. That doesn't mean that it's not um, immature, because to be mature is to be balanced and to know thyself, which is one of the highest laws of them all, is to know thyself, to know yourself, to know why you do what you do, why you feel the way you feel. You're not questioning yourself, your actions, your motives. You're not questioning yourself throughout the day, the week, the month, your life. You are missing a big opportunity to really know yourself and to really be happy. And I'm not talking about happy to where like you're like Snow White walking through the forest and you're singing and the birds are coming out and they're singing too. No, that's fucking fairy. Excuse me. That's a fairy tale. That's not happiness. That is fiction. The type of happiness I'm referring to is a type of understanding. Happiness in your head, right? Not happiness externally. Happiness in your head, meaning you feel balanced, have the ability to deal with the situation when it comes in and really not get emotionally upset over it, but mentally you sit back and you think, okay, I can see how this is a divine message, a divine crossroad. I can see how there is more here than meets the eye. There's an opportunity to learn and to grow, right? Instead of getting upset and getting mad, which is what the immature person would do, the mature person would balance the heart and the mind, the heart and the feather on the scales, and the two should balance. They should realize this, whatever issue I'm dealing with, this is something that I need to learn, and it's going to help me learn and go forward. And that's my overall goal, is to move forward, right? That's what you should be telling yourself. You have no goals. If your life is not about moving forward, um, it's immature and you got issues. And I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna say it. You got issues if your life is not about growth, because what's gonna happen is, as the everything else in life is moving forward, regardless of your decision to grow and move forward, it's gonna cause an issue because stagnation is going to appear on your end. You are going to stagnate as far as the rest of life moving and not moving, and there are going to be more instances or occurrences of challenging and trying times popping up around you. And some people would still say, well, that's the devil. Some people will say, oh, that's just that's life, right? That's life. It's like, no, yes, it is life, right? But life is a fluidic thing. Um, it moves, it varies, it's supposed to. So for you to just say, well, that's life, it's like, yeah, but you're taking no responsibility for what is happening or has happened or is going to happen. Taking your hands off of it, like you're on Colossus at Magic Mountain, and you're dropping at like 60 miles per hour, right? You're just taking your hands off the situation. No, um, you have to take responsibility for your actions, for your thoughts, for your feelings, for your reactions. And when you do that, you become a more mature, responsible, growth oriented person. And once you become that tree, you can then start to bear fruit. And once you bear fruit, others now can take advantage or learn from your from the fruits of your efforts, right? And that's where the whole communal community concept and ideology comes from. We it's initially why I called this channel the Ancient Tree of Life. It was dualistic, right? And all things in nature, when you look at it through an esoteric lens, all things in life and in nature should resonate in three, right? Um, and one of them is the, you have the beginning of something, right? Which is usually because you sensed it or you wanted it, right? That would be one, right? Two would be you see a need externally for it, other people being interested in it. And if you have an idea or a concept or something that you feel that has dual need, where you feel and resonate with it, and others feel and resonate with it, well, you've got like a pairing, right? Kind of like a relationship. You have a pairing of something that can grow. It has grown past you. Um, and then when you start to now apply it uh, on a grander level, on a greater level, um, and outside communities start to take an interest in it, then you've got the third expression, right? And that's why we follow this rule of three when we deal with a lot of this energy and a lot of this work, is because the rule of three has meaning to it. It is a if you wanted to count or measure um, this esoteric, intangible etheric material, right? How it manifests, right? You would use numbers, right? You would have there'd be stages. Once again, we go back to labeling, classifying. You would have stages, and you would label or classify these things in stages, right? So an initial immaterial thought coming to you, right? And it's called an intuition or whatever, from Amen or Amun, right? That would be stage one, right? That would you could even say it might be stage zero, but we're not going to go there yet. We're not going to go with the stage zero, right? That would be stage one. Stage two would be you identifying with it and incorporating it into your life, and then the third would be you being able to help somebody else, right? Somebody else, not even really help, somebody else wanting to come in and understand your understanding, where something outside of yourself physically was able to benefit from this as well. So you've got from the immaterial to you, which is a hybrid of material and immaterial, to material, which is someone else or another people that are physically interested in what it is you have to say, right? The fruits of your labor, right? And that's kind of how we can measure um, phases or instances of materialization from the immaterial, the side of Amen or Amun, to the material manifestation where you actually have something that's manifested, right? This concept goes back to some some people feel that the spiritual world is just a it's mostly it's you like it's not it can't be measured, um, and it's kind of hard for me to explain, but some people feel that it's just a sporadic thing, right? And it's not a very it has elements of being sporadic, but it can be looked at from a scientific perspective or under a scientific lens, but it has to be a pseudo scientific lens, right? A spiritual scientific lens, right? Uh, Sort of like we have the term metaphysical, which means meta means like pseudo or hyper. Yeah, pseudo would be a good word, pseudo. And physical meaning tangible. So it's metaphysical. It's like not real, but yes, it is. And then you have physical, which means it's physical. And metaphysical is just that which is intangible before the physical. So you've got this metaphysical work that you are working with, and there you have to find a way in order to measure it. Like I mentioned earlier, having a dream journal, a diary, writing down your experiences. That's a great way to measure the work that you do, right? And and to gauge um, the progression of it. Um, Sorry, I was going to go off on some other tangent, but I kind of paced it a little bit. So, like I was saying earlier, I'm kind of looking at going from changing the name of the group from or the community from Ancient Tree of Life ATL, as I was sort of shortening it for, to Ancient Egyptian Gods, right? So from ATL to AEG. And I mean, unless you guys are just like, no, we like the Ancient Tree of Life channel, I'll probably switch it over. But if you're just like, no, we like Ancient Tree of Life, we like ATL, then let me know. Drop a comment, drop a like. Let me know ATL a little bit more or a lot more than AEG, Egyptian Gods, which I kind of like both, to be honest. Um, but I think Ancient Egyptian Gods (AEG) is a little bit more fitting for the type of work that we're doing here. Um, hey Kiki, hey, thanks for stopping by to send some love. I appreciate that. Hope your Sunday's going well. Your Sunday. So yeah, I know I haven't done a video in a really long time. I can't remember when was the last time. I'll have to check my I thought I gotta get on here and um, kind of say hello, say thank you guys for your subscriptions on YouTube, also on Facebook. Um, I took a little bit of a break. Why did I take a little bit of a break? Um, if you're just joining, it's because, as I said earlier, I when I first started doing this, a lot of information was coming through. I was receiving a lot of info, and I was sharing it. And then um, I think I just came to a closure on that particular segment of um, my life for a bit. I don't want to say a complete closure, but that segment of learning sort of, I feel like I really understood. I benefited from it and I understood it. But if I kept doing videos, I was just going to be regurgitating something. I didn't want to do that. Um, I wanted to leave my other videos that were out there. The initial first experience of me going through like my spiritual path work or my path work. And I wanted those videos to stand on their own instead of having more duplicate videos with the same information. Because I go back and I look at those videos and they're kind of like my dream diary, my dream journal. Those videos are. Hello. Yeah. Okay. All right. Hello. Hello. I don't know if I completely agree with that, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of fantastical information out there. Anyways, so yeah, that's kind of why I sort of took a little bit of a break, and then I had personal things going on. Well, professional things, right? I'm an IT person by trade, technology, right? I am a child Tahuti, of Thoth. I am also a child of Ozet. But technology wise, I love technology. It is essentially information. It is light information because it's all done on the computer. It's digital, right? And so to me, that is working. That light energy is energy that comes from the sun, right? And with me being a Leo, and working with the RaEa, the energy, the RaEa energy, um, it makes sense for me to work with technology, right? No problem. Hello, no problem. um, I'm very I'm not I'm not I'm not very critical. I am critical at times, but when it comes down to like stuff like that, like dinosaurs in Area 51, actually anything Area 51 wise, I mean, I'm just like, okay, yeah, probably, maybe, you know what, but that's not what we're talking about here. Um, but thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Um, they probably have fossils under there, fossil fuels. That I would have believed if you had said, "Hey, Area 51 has they're hiding dinosaur fossil fuels or fossils." I'd be like, probably, probably. But dinosaurs, anyways. So, yeah. So I took a little bit of a break, and I started working on my professional life a little bit more because I come to the conclusion if I really wanted to work on my path work and work on my spiritual community, my professional life had to be where I could do more, right? Where I could, I'd have the time to do more for starters. I personally, I would love if I'm working towards my idea is to be able to do more spiritual, esoteric uh, work on myself, meditation, mediumistic trance work, connecting with Aset and the other deities, and sharing that information. That's my goal. That's what I want to do. But you kind of have to have control over your life because I don't care what anybody tells you, and I don't mean to offend anybody. I'm not trying to offend anybody. If you have a job, and it's not a job that you love, and if someone else controls how you spend your time and how much and how if they control how you or if they control your time and allocate you X amount of uh, dollars compensation wise, your life is controlled. Essentially, if you have a job, you said it was a steady foundation. Yes, yeah. Oh, you mean yeah, the foundation of that all this was resting on. Yeah, exactly, Kiki. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for catching that. But if someone controls your life, you're not free. We've had slavery for a very long time, right? And before it was based on race, ethnic, creed. Um, I'm going to jump in and out of this real quick just because I'm making a point. It's not really about slavery itself, but it kind of is, right? I know a lot of people they remember the African Americans, the Black people of America being slaves, right? But there were the Irish that were slaves as well. They suffered at the hands of their rulers, right? So there has been slavery for a very long time. Now, what happened was because slavery could not have stayed the way that it was. Remember, as I said, all things change and move, right? It transformed. It no longer became, well, we're going to not pay you and we own you and you do work for us because as the world moved forward, that became very, you couldn't do it anymore, right? It became very taboo. So what happened was you were now given a job to do, and then a certain amount of money was allocated to you for the work that you did. And now you had to commit yourself, you had to make a promise that you were going to come to this um, this task that you had to do to collect this money. You had to come to do it because if you didn't, we would replace you. We'll just get somebody else, and your lifestyle would be affected, right? So slavery has transformed to now you're enslaved to the time you have to dedicate in order to collect the controlled amount of money that is allocated to you so that you can do certain things in life, right? So now you're being you're being directly controlled, but it's indirect slavery, right? And one of the things that I realized this when I was 18, that I wanted to help people get out of this. And I didn't know why. And I came across different ways that I thought were great ideas to do this. And I realized at a very young age, was a very sad thing for my soul, was that some people like the bondage. They like being attached to the new age master, the new age slave owner, right? They like it. It's comfortable. Um, and who am I to say that those people are wrong, right? I have spent about 20 years trying to find a way to change people's minds that this is not the way to live, right? And once again, if you keep working this path, you will realize as you grow, there will just be other people around you that don't see the whole freedom oriented lifestyle that you are getting a glimpse of, not just esoteric wise, not just spiritually wise, but I'm talking about just like ideas, ways to change life, right? Better ways to live. People become very used to the things that they're used to, right? The things that are around them. Um, they get validation from other people that are doing the same things, other friends, family, society. You know what I mean? So you can't save or help everybody because not everybody wants to be saved or helped. But you can be there and be supportive. You can not directly. You don't have to be because some people are just negative. And you don't want to be around negative people who are going to bring you down. But you can be a tree, and if that person does want to eat the fruit from your tree, they do want to one day take a gander at what it is that you see in your mind's eye, then they have the opportunity to. And I hope that makes sense. Once again, like I said, I speak cryptically, and it's because that's how my brain thinks. It thinks symbolic, like in symbols. Um, and so when I speak, it's like I'm not speaking directly, but indirectly, and then associating other concepts with the core, right? I remember when I was younger, I remember hearing that the Sphinx, nobody knew what the Sphinx was or what it meant or whatever, right? What it was built for, what it was. There was a mystery behind it. I remember my brain thinking, I need to figure this out. Nobody knows, nobody, right? And so it made me want to know, what was the Sphinx about? What was it about? It was this riddle. This, to me, in the world, the Sphinx was a riddle, a silent riddle, right? There, it was apparent, but what it really was and what it really meant, I think there were two sides of it. You had this huge ass um, physical thing, right? And then you had this reason or meaning, this identity, this pseudo or meta reason why it was built. And I didn't realize the meta reason until later on in life. And things started opening up for me. That's when I realized the whole Ra energy, the sun god Ra energy. Um, and then just here recently, I realized it's not the Ra, the sun god energy that I was attracted to, even though my name is symbolic of that sun god's energy. Even my initials of my first name and my last name and my first name are symbolic of Ra. And I don't think my mom knew this. I think she might have just been helped by Aset when she was thinking of a name for me. I don't think my mom, she had no interest in old ancient history, whether it be Egyptian, whether it had been Sumerian, nothing, right? And I just think it was just one of those destiny oriented things because it was going to be a key that wakes me up later on in life. And as I was just reading in the Metanetter, good book, you guys. I recommend it. It's a heavy read, but it's a heavy read. I don't know if I would start there, but eventually I would make my way there. But he mentions how your name it has meaning. It's supposed to have meaning more than just this label that's slapped on you like a price tag or a barcode sticker or whatnot, right? It's supposed to have meaning. It's supposed to resonate. Um, it's supposed to have meaning behind it, right? And so um, yeah, the Sphinx to me was a riddle, and I think I identified with it, and therefore when I'm speaking, I don't speak directly. I speak indirectly. It's kind of like the Sphinx or Haramaket. Sorry, the Sphinx is actually called the name. One of the old names was Haramaket, um, because the Sphinx is it's that's a Greek term and it means something totally else. But the that it was a riddle. Um, I identified with it, and I felt the need to unwrap the riddle, and I think there were benefits. So I'm gonna stop for a bit and see if there's any questions. You guys got any questions? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to ask? I mean, guys, I'm sort of just checking around on my on my pages, see how if anybody's saying anything that I'm not seeing, 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 anything. Right. So we are actually live and streaming on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. Facebook not right now because I don't have that set up right now. And I just wanted to jump on, do a little bit of um, a live broadcast, and reintroduce myself into the whole to the group. I know I've been away for a bit. Essentially, I wanted to acquire more information, share with you guys. Oh, nice, Kiki. Okay, we'll see. There you go. So you have identified with your name, um, and has that been a key for you? Has that opened up any sort of has it opened up anything for you? I was watching a show I was watching From Dusk Till Dawn, which was an interesting show on Netflix, and one of the girls in it was they were trying to make Dios in Spanish. It's Dios for goddess. I think her name was not Keisha. I don't remember what her name was, but it was. Hold on a second. can't find it right now. Let's see. Kisa, that was her name, Kisa. She was like their goddess. Um, so that your name Kia kind of like it reminded me of her name. Um, in the Sumerian world and also the Mesopotamian, if you're familiar with the Babylonian, E was it means earth. And one of the gods' names was in in Sumer, Sumerian. It was Ea, Ea, right? Ea. Some even say Aya, Ia, or Ea, Ea, right? And my last name is Eason, Eason, which to me means the son of Ea, right? Or Ea's son, right? Means the son of Ea. Son could be Son or Sun. Those two are interchangeable. They mean the same thing. At least they can. Sun being the actual physical sun, but also representative of the Kundalini energy or the Ra energy, which is Ra or the Ra'u, from what I'm understanding, it's actually pronounced. The Ra'u is the Kundalini energy, which is in India, right? It's that energy, that solar energy that builds up. So Ra'u or Ra means solar energy or means essentially solar energy, right? And Ea was the god of wisdom, and then in Babylon he had a son who we will get into right now, who would have been the son of Ea or Ea's son, right? And so I don't know if my name has actually any physical attachment to that at all, but it was a key that woke me up, right? Because of that, my first name, Ray, and my first initials, RA. And then the last 5 or so years ago, the whole Ea, or Eas, yeah, Eason aspect of it. Um, so yeah, your name can be a big key or opener for the psyche, or a doorway to the other side. So Kiki says, yeah, I take what I do from these things like my name, and it reminds me of learning through astrology. Yeah, Ki also translates Chi, which is also life force. Yes, Chi is also life force as well, and I'm just now learning that that Chi was derived from the old ancient kemetic um, uh, energy for the Rao, right? So yeah, it does mean solar energy, and I'm going to assume that Chinese, their name for their people actually is derived from this whole Qi derivative, meaning life force. So their name must mean the life force of the people or something like that. I wish somebody would confirm this or denounce it, right? But their old ancient tetherings to the past, um, they were great spiritual workers as well, right? And so their name, it must represent the people of light, or something, the solar people or something. I haven't gotten into the Chinese history or spirituality or anything like that, but just little things that like pop up in your mind. I also like the connection of Adam and yeah, yeah. You mean the actual atom, like the actual molecule, the atom molecule, and yeah, yeah. And those are certain the little things like that are what wake you up. You start thinking, this can't be a coincidence. The atom and the atom, right? Or the atin, right? Which was the solar disk. The atin was the solar disk. Um, atom would have been the solar, kind of like I believe was a solar deity. I'm not quite sure on that because the work that I do has not really mentioned atom. It mentions Amun, Amin, and Amun, and Amon, and I don't know if atom is is one of those same names. So it could be Amen, Amun, Amon, Atum, and Aten. Those could be the same, the sort of the same things. It could be, other than Amen and Amun and Amon means the hidden one, right? And the other two actually refer to a light, the solar aspect of it, right? So I'm wondering if they're meaning the hidden light, which is another term that I came across a while back. You've got the hidden, and you've got the hidden light, right? Essentially, if your name was Amun Ra, hidden would be Amun, and Ra would mean light or the solar. So the hidden solar, Amun Ra, Amun Re. Yes, connection of the dots. Yes, very much so. I believe that's what our ancient people, when they looked up at the sky and they saw the stars, I think they saw them as dots. And they're like, well, if you connect these dots, and that's where you get astrology from, right? Connecting the dots. Because other than that, they're just arbitrarily out there, just in the sky, right? But you start connecting them and you start seeing like a Big Dipper, start seeing like you can see Orion or Orionis, the actual name of Orion, Alpha Orionis. You can actually see Orion in the sky if you look at the seven stars. If you don't, you just look at the one in its belt, you're not seeing anything. But if you look at the seven stars, you can see the belt, you can see the legs and the feet, the arms, right? So yeah, astrology, a very big thing when it comes down to working with this path work. Gives you so much. They're tools. They're calculated mathematical tools, kind of like numbers are, right? Yeah, so a tomb might be a moon. It might be, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I think a tomb, a 10 meant solar, which would be a solar. I'll have to look into it more. We'll have to investigate that. If you find out, let me know. Let us know. Drop a comment. That'd be great. If you come across any other articles or whatnot. Yes, the Orion's belt. Yeah, yeah. Orion's belt is essentially the three stars in the belt. Between the there's the three, and then it's a total of seven stars. So you've got like four more. Um, but the three stars in Orion's belt, and I can't remember their name right now. There's some Greek names. My brain doesn't stick with Greek; it just doesn't. But I can't remember the names. But those three stars, they link up with. This is what's been said. They link up with the three pyramids. That the um, the the Giza pyramid, which is the largest one in the middle, and I get these two mixed up, the left one and the right one. Um, Trying to remember. I yeah, I can never remember their names of it. Let me pull it up. Okay, the pyramid of Min, Minkaure and the pyramid of Khafre, right? So even in the name Minkaure, Menkaure, we've got Ka in there, Ka. We've got Ray in there. So there's sort of a hidden message or a hidden secret that it may be linked to something star based or light based, right? Khafre, once again, it's got Ray at the end. Um, so it kind of once again, oh, right? No, it's the pyramid of Minakare, pyramid of Khafre, and the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Maybe Giza is not okay. So I think okay, we call the middle pyramid the Pyramid of Giza, but I don't think it's actually was the pyramid of. That's not its actual name. It's the Pyramid of Minkaare, and then the other two are Pyramid of Khafre and the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Now go ahead. I'm going to drop this link. It's a Wikipedia one. I'm sorry, I'm not pulling it from some ancient archive. but it's got the three names of um, the pyramids in there. We'll go ahead. Sorry, you guys in Instagram, you're not getting these links, but you can check us out on Facebook, or not Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter to get the link. So yeah, essentially, yeah, the stars in Orion's belt are reminiscent of the three pyramids in Kemet, in Kemetic Egypt. You're very welcome, Kiki. You're very welcome. Um, yeah, the pyramids themselves are another secret, and because some people would say they had a secret society, you know, let's just say they did. Let's just say that's what it was. Let's just say yes, it was a secret society, and not like taboo, right? Just it was a learning system, right? They were teaching people how to ascend, how to enlighten oneself, how to rise up, right? Rise up out of one's base animal self, right, to something more. Which is why the logo for the Ancient Tree of Life channel are the three pyramids with the soul or the spirit rising up from it with the scarab at the very bottom, clenching the eye of RaEa or RaEa in his back legs. Right, that whole image represents something, and that's why I picked it. It wasn't arbitrary. Um, but those so the harem maquette and the pyramids are keys to higher understanding. The Sphinx is a key to understanding the pyramids, and the pyramids are a key to understanding something else. The Sphinx or harem maquette is older than the pyramids. So whoever built the pyramids first, or built the harem maquette first, that culture had a clear understanding of the rising of higher self from the animalistic base, lower base, right? And that's what harem maquette represents. I'm giving you guys just a little bit of information here, right? Because I don't want to say too much, but I did a post the other couple of about a week or so ago that shows Heru and Set tying the knot over over the eye, the heart, and the papyrus, right? And Set represents the animalistic self, the base, aggressive animalistic self, and Heru represents that which rises up, right? And so them tying the knot represents Heru besting Set, the lower self, and that is what the Sphinx represents, the besting of the higher self over the lower self, which is why you have the head of the king or the pharaoh resting on the body of the lion, right? I mean, plain as day. And like I said, this was one of those great secrets that I figured out when I was young because it made sense to me. But as I've gotten older, there's more information that's built into what that actually meant. You can have a subtle intuition about something, but not really um, uh, specific details about it until you learn or acquire or and bring in new information. So that's what the harem maquette actually represent. The pyramids represent something else. Like I said, it's taught. You've got the one, which is harem maquette. You've got the three, which are the pyramids, and then you've got the seven, which are the Orion constellation belt, right? And as if you've watched any of these videos, or if you're a numbers person, right, you will know that the number seven is a very spiritual number. It represents um, a higher way of things, right? And numbers are not arbitrary. There is a reason why we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it starts over, right? There's a reason. Um, but Haramaket would be one. The pyramids would be three, and then the seven would be um, the Orion constellation. I know you might be asking, well, what about 2 and what about 4 and what about 5? Well, we're not going to go into 2 right now, other than we're not going to go into 2 right now. 4, easy enough, are the elementals, right? The 4 elementals: north, south, east, and west. Earth, fire, wind, and water, right? So 1 would be Haramaket. 3 would be the pyramids. 4 would be the elementals. And then if you take the 4 and the 3 and you put it together, you get the 7. That's where you have the Orion constellation. Now, what does that Orion? What does that mean now? If 4 and 3 make 7, which is the Orion's constellation, that means you need to do a little more research or subscribe to our newsletter or our channel and learn more about the hidden secrets, because this information was not taught to everybody, and there's a reason. The more information you have in regards to this, the more proficient you become in the work that you do. Put it like that. Um, and so, if you are a good person, you can do great good with this. World changing great good. If you are a bad person, you can do bad things. World changing bad things, right? Let's just say, for instance, I don't know, a group of people long time ago got a hold of this information and decided, you know what? We want to control the world. We want everybody to believe the way that we do, and then we want to control how they believe and think. Get enough people working together on this. Next thing you know, yeah. So it can become a very bad thing, right? Um, a very good thing would be, let's say, for instance, prior to this usurping, you had people that had lived for 10, 15, 20, 30,000 years, living somewhat in harmony, other than from the invaders coming in trying to take their land and their resources. You have people living in harmony in a community which was able to cultivate such great knowledge, information, and wisdom and share it with those around them, right? And therefore, you build things, constructs that last the ages, that people still have an interest in to this day. That's the two sides of the mirror, right? That's the two, right? Maybe that's what the number 2 represented to them after you had Abraham Marquette. You have the knowledge and the wisdom, and the split would be 2. What are you going to do with it? Are you a good person? Are you a bad person? Is your heart heavy, or is your heart as light as a feather, right? Yeah. So the information the information was kept secret, because some people are just nefarious, right? They are. Hey, Jay Farmer, welcome to the live event. Thanks for joining. So we've been on here for about, I'm going to say it's almost been an hour. And usually Instagram will like kick you off after like a certain period of time, but it's still up and going. So we're just kind of gonna let it. So if you're just joining, this is RaEa, uh, Ray Eason, aka RaEa, with the Ancient Tree of Life or Ancient Egyptian Gods channel. Vote. Which name do you like the best? Do you like Ancient Tree of Life, or do you like Ancient Egyptian Gods? I kind of explained earlier a little bit about the reason why I'm looking at the two names. I'm going to repost this video later so you guys can actually watch it and go back over it later. Because as one of the people that I follow says, repetition is the way that we learn. We don't learn something the first time. We may not even learn it the second time. And we never learn something in its entirety, because as life continues to change, we only learn that which we're able to comprehend, and essentially, yeah, that which we're able to comprehend. Uh, so repetition is the way. So I just want to take a break, ask if you guys have any questions. Oh, you like the name Ancient Tree of Life, Kiki? Okay, all right, I'll remember that. That's a 1 for Ancient Tree of Life. Okay, All right, cool. Um, yeah, I like that name too. It meant a lot. It meant a lot to me, but then I started realizing my the information on my page, like the image, there was no tree on there. um, I mean, the pyramids being there represented ancient, um, but there was no tree. Other than maybe the three pyramids could represent the first three sephira on the tree of life, the first three spheres, so it could be the top of the tree. Um, I don't know. Uh, that's kind of where I'm at right now. We'll be talking about the ancient tree of life later on, or the tree of life. I've got some videos on my YouTube channel if you guys want to check it out. But that's a whole different spirit. Essentially, you're working your way up when working with with this understanding, right? And you start with the base understanding, and then you work your way up. And the ancient tree of life, or the tree of life, is probably somewhere in between here and there, right? Or if it's probably here, and you've got this stuff up here. So it's a little bit more higher advanced understanding. You have to understand some of the lesser principles. Yeah, yeah, for sure, Kiki. But you have to sort of understand some of the principles, and that's what those initial videos are about that I posted on, that are still on YouTube, but that I post on and also on Facebook and on Twitter, Twitch. Um, so some of the base understanding and lessons are there. So I really recommend, if you haven't already done so, head over to the ancient Egyptian gods channel on YouTube, because I switched it over because I can switch it back over on YouTube, and check out the videos. They're listed in date form, and if you look at them in their date form, it's the actual progression of what I was going through when I was working with this energy, working on this path, I should say, and my revelations about it all. So you kind of get this story based progression, right? Which I kind of like. I think it's kind of cool. So it's over on YouTube. Look up ancient Egyptian gods. Unless I change it, I'm back to ancient tree of life, right? But right now it's ancient Egyptian gods. Does anybody have any questions? We'll stop, take a break. I'm excited. I haven't done one of these in a long time. It reminds me how much I actually like doing them. So let's see. I think that's where we're gonna leave it for right now. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it reintroductory. Right? This is the reintroduction to the ancient tree of life, or the ancient Egyptian gods channel. Jumping on there and saying, "Hey, I'm still here. I've been busy. I've been working on stuff, um, but it's all good. We got new information that we want to share. New information. We're in Libra right now. Libra represents uh, love, beauty, friendships, family, community. Um, uh, the color would be reminiscent of green, which would be fertility, prosperity, all that grows. Um, that's what Libra is, and that's what we're doing right here. We're teaching, we're working with community. Oh, thank you, Kiki. So Kiki just says, not really a question, just going to add, I like your perspective on these things, or appreciate it. All right, thanks a lot, Kiki. I so appreciate that. Thanks for the confirmation, for letting me know. Sometimes when you're doing this stuff, you don't know if you're actually, um, if you're building any value, if you're helping anyone, if you're just talking to yourself. You know what I mean? But hearing that is, I thank you very much. I appreciate that. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, which I'm sure you're subscribed to YouTube. Make sure you hit the follow button. That way, get updates when there's any new video or podcast put out. I did do a few podcasts on there as well. I might get back into podcasting. I want to. Um, but make sure you follow. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, jump on over to ancienttreeoflife.com, and then go ahead and subscribe over there. I will be updating the website. I'm an IT guy, right? I'm a tech guy, right? You would think a tech person doing spirituality? Yeah, I was born into spirituality when I was younger. Born Christian Methodist, so spirituality, religion, the acknowledgement of God and there being something else has always been there. Just how do you access and how do you work with, how do you develop a relationship? Was something that I learned to develop later on. And then as I got older, I realized that there was a great group of African people a long time ago that had done the same thing. And therefore, I felt like I was coming home. I felt awesome. I felt like I was doing something that was in my blood, that was in my genes, that was in my genetic code to do something, to learn outside of the institutions of the world. And so that is something I think we all have inside of us, that little nagging feeling that says there's something else there. And some of us listen to it and then we allow new information to come in. And other people will say, nah, that's just, and they won't put any sunlight on the seedling. Therefore, a seedling needs sun in order to grow. If not, it falls back into the earth and it decays, right? So thoughts and ideas need to be given sun in order so that they can grow. If not, they fall back into decay. And that is the cycle of life, right? From death to birth, back to death, and then rebirth. The cycle of life encompasses and embodies life, death, and rebirth, right? Those are the three core things. It's like a universal program that runs that we're all sort of attached to. And that's what the ancients realized a long time ago, especially when they started to see that they could communicate with the dead and the other side and get information back. And also seeing the reincarnation process, knowing that somebody that once lived, this person who has just been born or has been living for the last like 10, 15, 20 years reminds us of this other person that used to live and walk and talk, right? So there's definitely, depending on the culture you're in, the society, you'll see these things a little bit more than this bleached culture and world that we live in now, where nothing makes sense unless the doctor is created or the school teaches it or anything that the oppressors of the system allow to be shared, right? Because then all you're believing in is what they will allow you to believe in, because that's all that you know. And the internet has really shattered that gate that they have put us around. What they just taught in school, what they just taught in church, what they just allow us to do, the internet has allowed us to look at other cultures, to read, understand, um, to be able to put pieces, real world pieces back together in order to form a new concept or a new understanding of how life is supposed to be, how it was, and how it can be once again, right? So the internet, I believe, is a piece of the Tahuti or the Thoth, um, the world of Thoth to Tahuti information, right? Tahuti was, if you look at his hieroglyph, it's a man with the a head of a it's an ibis. Ibis. It's the head of a bird, but it's a particular type of bird with a piece of paper and a pencil or pen up against the paper, right? Some say it's a blank sheet of paper, and what that means is writing, right? Writing. If you write something, it's there forever. Unless it's burnt. Unless it's burned down. or he gets destroyed somehow, whatever. Sorry, I had a flashback. A library being burnt and torched because it had all this information they didn't want them to have. And they took it for themselves and had it stored at the bottom of their vaults and reserves. Anyways, um, but yes, he is the god or the the, um, the deity of writing, reading, remembering, learning, educating. Um, and the internet, I believe, falls under that realm or jurisdiction of Tahuti. So it has allowed us, and especially a lot of younger people. I was talking to my sister. My sister's younger than me, and she says, "Yeah, young people are now questioning everything." And I'm just like, "Well, I'm a little bit older, and so I'm just like, yeah, people that are my age, they tend to don't question anything." And growing up, they were just like, if you did question, you were going to a very bad place for questioning. And it just didn't make any sense, right? But it was not about it making sense. It was about control. It was about fear. Control and fear doesn't have to deal anything with with making sense, right? So it was good to hear my sister say that young people are opening up and they're realizing that they were more than just like say for African Americans, they were more than just slaves. They didn't just begin their race as slaves in America. we're not a 200 we're not a 250, 280 year old race as African Americans, right? We are a 10, 15, 20, 30,000 year old race of people, right? So we've been around for a minute, a lot longer than slavery, and if we can remember that and remember to balance the scales, we can get away from some of that pain and hurt that comes along from slavery and indentured, not even indentured servitude. Indentured servitude was something different, right? You couldn't pay a debt, your father couldn't pay a debt, and so now you, your father and his family, or his successors, his children, were now uh, supposed to work off this debt, right? And then when it was worked off, you were free, right? That's not what this was. This was not indentured servitude. Um, so, anyways, yeah, we'll kind of leave it there. I don't really like to get all into that stuff, but it's something that has to be touched upon, that has to be addressed. If not, people won't heal, and it's all about healing the heart, so it can be as light as a feather. What it's about. So, I think we'll leave it there. I do want to share my last tarot reading that I did when we went into not Libra. I haven't done a tarot reading in Libra, but for Libra we were in Virgo, right? So I did a reading when I was in Virgo, and I'd like to do a tarot reading after I do a meditation trance work in a new astrological time frame, because each astrological time frame has its own energy about it. So I like to still the self, blank the mind, go into what's being referred to as a mediumistic trance, and then receive information and then do a tarot card reading, right? And the one that I got during Virgo, when I was coming to the conclusion that I needed, because Virgo, if you look at one of my last posts, the Virgo is about um, your performing a service, right? Um, the work that you do, performing a service for others, and it's a servitude oriented energy, right? It's not servitude meaning you're a slave, but servitude meaning what do you do to contribute to the whole? What do you do to contribute to society, right? And the card that I got was this one here. Put it here too. And if you have a regular deck of tarot cards, the universe card can also be interchanged with the world card, right? And I think I did not share this book. I shared it here. This is one of the books that I'm reading. This here, Netu Netter. Sorry, I didn't share this earlier. By Ra'un Nefer Amen. It's a really good book. It's heavy stuff, you guys. Um, I recommend it at some point in your path work. In the beginning, it's heavy. It's really heavy, but it's great information. My uncle actually mentioned that book to me before. Okay, put it like this: I'd come across the book, but it was not stored in my long term memory or even in my short term. It just wasn't there, right? And then my uncle mentioned something to me, and it didn't quite get stored, but I think it was still linked to my first exposure to it. And then I was on my Instagram page, and another person. This is not in the same time though. This is probably over like the course of like, I'm going to say like maybe, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe 6 months. I can't remember exactly when the first occurrence happened. But I ran across somebody in my Instagram channel, and they mentioned something to me, and I was like, huh. So then I went and I picked it up and read it. And it's a really good book. Totally gives some background history and information, and working with the raw energy or the RaEa energy. It's a really good book. It's really heavy, um, but I definitely recommend it as a tool in your learning. But anyways, so the universe card is also the world card, right? And I thought it was ironic that I would get this card last month. I don't get that card a lot because to me, the world card when I first got started, to me it meant attaining the things in the world, attaining, right? And I was still in this material aspect of myself where I felt things had to materialize right now, and they had to be applicable right now. But what I realized was um, the world card or the universe card actually it's a communal card, and it represents the interconnectedness of everything, the universe communicating with you through constructs or aspects, right? So, like, I'll put it back up here. Right here, you'll see like the eye in the upper right hand corner is projecting light, which is the ray, right? And it's creating this serpent, which is the wisdom, and the lady is dancing. She's dancing with the rhythm of the universe, right? You have, like I said, you have the eye there, but projecting the light, which is the ray of the RaEa, and then it's creating this the snake or the serpent, which is the wisdom, and she's tiptoed on it, but there's musical notes all around her, which represents sort of dancing to the tune of life. And if you look at the shape of the blue region that she's in, you look at the shape, it looks like an egg, doesn't it? It looks like an egg, right? Or a seed, right? And you'll hear me many, many times refer to seeds, eggs, um, and seedlings, right? Because all life starts with a seed, even if it's an idea, um, initial work, or something. Even life itself, the woman's egg, and then man's, uh, the man's sperm, right? Fertilizing the egg, right? The egg represents life. And so it kind of gave me a confirmation that I was supposed to, that what I was doing, the work that I was doing was right, um, but it could be shared with the world a little bit more. Um, the universe wanted me to start working with you guys a bit more, and that's what I saw in that card. That's what I got in that card in my reading. And then today, here we are, reintroducing, performing a reintroduction of all the things that have an interest in. So I kind of just want to leave it at that. I'm excited to be back, you guys. I'm really excited. I'm humbled to have you guys come out. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and jump on over on my YouTube channel. Not Kiki, she's already there. Go ahead and jump on over on my YouTube channel and click subscribe. Also follow so that you get any new posts or live streams that are coming out. If you're on Facebook, you can look us up under Ancient Tree of Life. that name's not going to change. You can't change that name on Facebook, so it's going to be Ancient Tree of Life. If you're on Twitter, you like micro tweets, look up Ancient Tree Life, an Ancient Tree of Life, but Ancient Tree Life. Instagram, it's Ancient Gods. And then on YouTube, look up Ancient, Ancient Egypt Gods. So thanks for coming out. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and you can post them now. Any questions, comments, suggestions, recommendations? Oh, also, if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, you can go over to um, ancienttreeoflife.com or ancientegyptgods.com and subscribe to the newsletter there. I'm going to update the website. It's going to be a different site. And we're also looking at doing learning. I don't want to say learning classes or learning courses, but I want to do some sort of education sharing is what we'll call it, sharing courses or sharing information on the website. I'm thinking we're gonna have like maybe like kind of like courses, kind of like where you're when you're at school. There'll be quizzes and tests and stuff like that. It could be fun. It could be fun. You come on out, you can sort of give some your feedback on it if you think it's cool or not. So cool. Well, it's not started now, but I'm looking at doing it hopefully before the end of the year. Hopefully. Once again, that's ancienttreeoflife.com. Go ahead and subscribe, or you can go over to ancientgods.com. So thanks for coming out, you guys. This is RaEa with the Ancient Tree of Life, aka Ancient channel. I enjoyed sharing this information with you. Once again, remember to follow, remember to like, comment, and if you have any questions, you can always drop me a direct message, or you can hop on over to the website, click contact, and so thanks for coming out. Have a great day, you guys. Talk to you soon, and remember to look out for my next video, but also check out our other videos as well. So talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Ta-ta for now. And Emhotep. See you guys later. All right. Bye-bye.